from Section 204. Heavy Hockey Podcast with Michael and guests. Heavy hockey isn't dead. It's just getting started.
Hey, everyone. It's Michael here from the Heavy Hockey Podcast. As my guest today, SPR from the oilnight.ca and Spencer Pomoty, a prospect analyst for the Oil Night Prospect Network. Welcome, guys, to the show and a new season on the Oilers Live channel. How are you guys?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Well, I'm really, I'm getting excited. We're 3-4 days from puck drop on a season that I think if you're like me, you never thought would happen. But lo and behold, we're there. Well, I shouldn't say we're there yet because Vancouver was off the ice today, if you didn't hear, for risk of COVID. And having said that, let's try to reduce our talk of COVID for the rest of the episode today and focus on what really matters, and that's the hockey. So good to see you guys. Tell me, SPR, you and I talked off air a little bit, of course, between you and Spencer. You guys were following a couple of the players, the Oilers players going into the season. Tell me a little bit about what you guys have been doing in the off season in terms of following certain prospects.
Yeah, so I guess coming into the season, we're trying to provide fans with as much coverage as possible. So the plan was to cover the entire CHL, so QMJHL, OHL, and WHL. But unfortunately, two of those three didn't start at all, and the other one is suspended right now. So we've kind of branched out a bit and focused on a lot of our prospects that are playing overseas, and just try to give fans as much content as possible. And Spencer and I are banging out some late night shifts, trying to get as much content on there. We're building the YouTube channel and just trying to get as much exposure to that as we can.
Yeah, so the YouTube channel has been great for those of us fans that are interested in the prospects. I know we just talked about this. You're going to change so it's an easy to find URL, but you'll be able to find it at youtube.com/theoilnight soon enough. But otherwise, just search the Oil Night Prospect Network if that doesn't work for you. And what can I find on there?
There's highlights of different prospects like Bouchard, for example, and Tyler Benson. The ones that were over there that have come back, we've kind of put together like a highlight reel for those guys. And then we've tried to focus on some of the lesser prospects or lesser known prospects, Skyler Brindamore, Michael Kesselring, guys like that. Try and put up at least one shift by shift game of each prospect so fans can kind of get a feel for their style and the kind of prospects they are. And of course, everybody wants to see Carter Savoy and Dylan Holloway, so there's a ton of those up there as well. But that's kind of the goal, just to keep you updated on other things going on, because nobody really offers that kind of detail. So we're big on that.
Yeah, that's awesome. In fact, I've really enjoyed that. Thanks for doing that. Spencer, out of the prospects that you watched,
Yep.
who do you think was maybe the most surprising to you?
Right now it's got to be Carter Savoy. I wasn't the biggest fan of him in his draft year. I found AJHL is kind of even though like good players come out of there like Cale McCarr, it's a sketchy league to kind of draft out of. But right now he's lighting up DU on fire. He's making me eat my words, definitely. Still lots of power play production, and he's got a long way to go off puck, but right now he's the surprise for me.
Yeah, Rookie of the Month, of course, for December. Not too shabby, right?
Oh yeah, he's been playing well.
Yeah. And if you're going to look at him, I mean, how long are we talking until we see him play some games, you figure?
Oh, I think it'll be a few years. I wouldn't mind seeing him. Holland has also shown that he's willing to wait for his prospects. So I think with him, he could even 2-3 years in college and then come over and hopefully adjust to the pro game in Bakersfield, I'm guessing. So maybe another 3-4 years until he's even fighting for a spot on the roster, in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And Sean, same question to you. I mean, out of the guys that you were watching, any big surprises for you?
Well, Savoy for sure. It's a good start. Although, like Spencer, I was kind of hesitant at first. Well, going into the draft with him, he does have red flags. I mean, it's nice to just start off your college career with that kind of success. But he's, like you said, there's a few years to go still, and he's got a lot to work on. Pleasantly surprised with him. As far as the biggest surprise, I would say, well, there's two guys. So Matej Blumel's playing really well in the Czech Republic. He's leading his team in goals, and he's really caught on fire. I think he's got 12 in his last 14 games. He's a talented kid. He can really shoot the puck, and he works hard. I didn't realize he was that good. So he's one guy for sure. And but the other guy for me that's really kind of stood out, and to be honest, I didn't really know anything about him. And I just started watching, and I was like, wow, I really like how this guy plays. And just, game after game after game, he just kept showing up, is Maxim Deneshkin. And he's a 7th rounder from 2019. And he's playing over in Russia right now. And this kid is, he's not the biggest kid, but he's a battler. I mean, he works hard every shift. He plays center in the wing. He plays power play and penalty kill. He's a really, really smart, aware player. He's got sneaky good skill. And again, he's got that work ethic and that motor that you love. Like, he'll take on guys that are twice his size, and he'll get knocked down flat on the ice, and he'll just get right back up and just keep going, eh? And he's a real fun player to watch, and he's really grown on me. He's got a lot of talent. I would love to see him and Blumel in Bakersfield, maybe if not next year, then 2 years. I think there's two guys there that, these are sneaky good prospects.
So over the years, we've, the last few years, SPR, you and I have, of course, had a few conversations. And there's been a lot of guys come and go, obviously. You knew Bouchard from London Knight system, and then, of course, drafted by the Oilers. Even though you wouldn't have picked him, I guess. Bring that back up, but and maybe you still wouldn't. There's a couple guys like Marody just got released, right, or sent back down, right, from camp. Any of those guys that what's the Russian kid's name? But any of those guys that surprise you that they're not doing better than they are? Frankly, I'm not surprised by Marody. I've always felt like the guy's got unbelievable hockey sense. I remember, I think I told you, Sean, I talked to Glenn Anderson after he had been at one of the practices, and he was, blown away by Cooper Marody's hockey sense. But it's just some of the the skating and a couple of the other things, it just doesn't seem to have it. But any of those guys that you think should be there that aren't there, what's up with Maximov now and some of those guys that you were pretty high on at one point.
So Maximov is overseas playing in. He's kind of bounced up and down. He's been in the KHL, and then he's gone down to the VHL for a bit. That's the best league in the world outside of the NHL. So it's the top team in the KHL, and they just go with their veterans. So the young guys really don't get much opportunity there. So when he does play, it's in a 4th line role, and he's getting limited minutes. So I don't worry too much about that. When he goes down to the VHL, he looks awesome. Dominant.
Each shift, he's making something happen. Yeah, he's awesome down there.
Yeah, so he's doing good, and I think I think Holland's in a bit of a transition here, and I think these prospects. So him and McLeod are kind of like the two guys that are eventually, I think, going to step up and be the leaders in Bakersfield. And I think, like you said, guys like Marody and Gambardella got sent down, and even Tyler Benson maybe. I think they're going to slowly be phased out here, and I think that next group, led by McLeod, Maximov, and then Lavoie, and a bunch of these other kids, I think they're going to start to come up because these. There's a lot of talent there between them.
Do you guys, and feel free, either one of you, but do you feel Benson's going to make the taxi squad?
Yeah, I think he'll definitely be one of the guys. I heard he's been actually having a really good camp. from some of the highlights, he made a really nice pass I seen him on the first day that I really liked. It's just he's got really good board work. Everything you watch him, and it's his pace of play. If he can just up his foot speed, I feel like he could be such an effective bottom six forward for us. I feel like he'll get that shot. He's in a contract year now too. Holland probably wants to see what he's got in him.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing is with him, I mean, he's competing with guys like Josh Archibald, who just brings so much more to the table, penalty killing and physicality.
Even a Nygaard.
And even exactly. Even Nygaard, right? How is he going to beat those guys out? He just, again, he doesn't have that speed, right? That's the one thing. And same with Marody. That's the one knock on those guys, is they don't really have that NHL speed. So they can get away with it in the AHL with their hockey sense and skill there. But yeah, I think in the NHL, both of them are really going to struggle to stick.
Now, what about, obviously, one of the guys that we all followed just recently is Dylan Holloway. I mean, everybody, they watched him. There was moments of brilliance, moments of not so brilliance. He was kind of on and off, but that's to be expected in a tournament like that, and especially when I think the team was expecting different lineups. Obviously, the Kirby Dach thing changed things up a little bit, and guys were playing outside of where they thought they'd be playing. Where do you think, where do you think Holloway is going to end up? Is he, next year? Is this a kid that's going to make the squad?
I don't see it as next year. Holland likes to marinate his prospects, but he's going to be a good, effective, complementary top six winger. I feel like he can be that guy that plays with a McDavid and goes and he's fine defensively. It allows McDavid to unleash his offense, cheat a bit for that. He's great at retrieving pucks. Amazing. He can get pucks, support his teammates, and he just plays positionless hockey almost. It's awesome. He's usually first one in the zone and then first one back. And I see him, I want to open up more of his offense. I don't want to rush him to the NHL. I'd like to see him maybe light it up in Wisconsin for another this year and maybe next, and then come over in the AHL, or if he can crack the squad, then I'd say another 2 years. I'd like to see.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, let's hope when he goes back to Wisconsin, he only played 2 games there, but he wasn't playing with Cole Caulfield 5-on-5, right? It'd be nice to see those two together. But Holloway is Holloway's going to be an NHLer. There's no doubt in my mind, anyways. In some role, the question is whether he's going to be top 6 or not. I think if another team drafted him, they would be kind of grooming him for center, and he would be a potential second or third line center. But I think, like Spencer said, I think it's in Edmonton, there's a real opportunity for him to be a Cassian plus type player where he can, be the third guy on that line, but still he's not going to hurt you. He's going to retrieve pucks and he's going to be strong defensively and add that physical element, right? So that's exciting. I mean, that's something Edmonton doesn't really have too much of, and it's a need, right? So.
Okay, and we're going to move off to prospects here shortly, and then get into the upcoming season. But the other guy, obviously from the World Juniors, that had a lot of Oilers' eyes on him was Philip Broberg. Mm-hmm. Thoughts on him? I mean, if I had to say, right, I thought there again moments of brilliance, right? But these kind of top prospects in the World Juniors, you could so easily get on them and say, oh, that was awful, but they're still kids for the most part and still learning the game. I'm actually surprised. There were a couple times where I thought he was out for the whole tournament, and he's ended up back out on the next shift. What was your overall impression of him, and your thoughts on where he's at in terms of Oilers prospect?
I thought he played an awesome first game of the tournament. He looked unreal, moving the puck, stopping anything coming near him like he usually does with his mobility. And then he's injured for sure. There's got to be. And it just took a turn for the worst, his tournament. He was getting beat to every puck. He was relying on his reach way too much, not using his frame, shying away from contact. It was just, he looked weird. And then he had moments of, okay, he's back. He's fine. He's moving the puck. He had like this one fake shot I really enjoyed. He just stepped around the defender. And that's kind of Broberg's game. He's very inconsistent. It's even before the World Juniors and the SHL, he had some really high ups and then some really low lows. And if he can figure that out, he's still got so much time. He's only 19. He's young. He showed what I really liked from that tournament was his interview at the end when you could obviously tell he was disappointed. He's just tears. I couldn't understand him, but I never really seen this leadership side of Broberg. So there was a positive that came out there on that end.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and the thing is too, like I'm sure he put a lot of pressure on himself, right? He was the team captain, right?
Yep.
He was the team captain. He took on the leadership role. He felt like he let his team down. But he was, like you said, he's fighting through injury, right? So I kind of give him a lot of credit there. Like, he battled hard. He was getting crushed there in those games. There was one late hit that just laid him right out. So, I mean, again, it's hard to be too critical in just one tournament. Now, Spencer and I have kind of watched him in the SHL for a while. And, we've kind of had mixed reviews. Like he said, he's had good games and he's had bad games. But again, he's 19. You can tell he's extremely athletic. He has a ton of talent. So my big takeaway from the tournament was he's tough. He's resilient. And, he showed his leadership by fighting through it and giving it everything he had. So I think it's overall, even though he did struggle a bit defensively in that, I would still take it away as a positive. He showed fans a lot of what he's capable of.
Yeah, he's really been kind of a surprise from when he was drafted till now. I think everybody was a little bit surprised to hear his name called when the Oilers called him, and he's become one of the more exciting prospects. I lied, guys. I need to ask about Bouchard, right? Like to be fair, I didn't watch any of the clips of him when he played overseas. I haven't heard much more on him. So what's going on with Bouchard right now?
He's killing it overseas. Sean's been watching him a bit more than I have, but I feel like he should be. He's in the Els. Well, he was in the Allsvenskan, which it's a good league, but it's not like the SHL. But what I've really noticed is his skating has come a long way. And his offensive zone play is just awesome. Like, once he steps in, he can provide so much in transition. Like, he's going to help those, like Connor McDavid, just hidden passes will be unreal. I cannot wait for that. Yeah, you could tell, like, over there, like, he really kind of found his groove after, I would say, 5-6 games. And, I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting that he can log those kind of minutes, because that's a big thing, right? The Oilers really need a top pair guy. And right now, I think although Broberg showed that he could, he tried to handle a lot of minutes, but Bouchard, and, it doesn't matter where he's played, whether it's in London or he's playing 30 minutes a game, or in Bakersfield where he was a point per game player and was top minute guy on that team, or now in the SHL. I mean, he's a horse, right? Like, he's, he can handle the big minutes. So that's huge. He can lead a power play, quarterback that. That's another big need. Who knows how long Tyson Barrie's going to stay around. But yeah, over there, he had a lot of success. There were defensive warts. That's always going to be there. People just need to understand and realize that Bouchard is not great defensively. He's a finesse defender, so he's going to try and beat you with smarts and with positioning. He's not going to be overly physical, although that was one of the things that I did like over there as well. That was a bit of a surprise, was he was a little bit more physical than I'm used to, separating the player from the puck and that. But yeah, overall, I would consider it a big success. And I think and you can tell too, just in training camp, people are saying how good he looks. He's in shape and how confident he is. And I think it was a good transition for him.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I haven't and I've been following along, but I haven't heard a lot about him in training camp. And that, sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, right? So it's a little bit hard for me to say, but
go ahead. Clarify. Oh, sorry. I want to clarify one thing though. You said that I didn't want Bouchard. I just want to clarify because we did do it live on Oilers Live.
We did. You bet.
I had Noah Dobson ahead of him, and I think people probably know this by now.
That's who I wanted.
I had Noah Dobson ahead of him, but I understood the Bouchard pick, and I'm certainly not disappointed that Bouchard's there. More offense, right?
That is that is correct. Yes, I didn't quite phrase that properly, but I'll probably edit that last part out anyway, and just continue on with the you didn't want him. No,
just roll. Yeah, that sounds good.
That's you are right, and either was a good choice, I think, given the what the prospects were at that point, and I don't think you could have went wrong. Let's skip ahead. I mean, we're rolling into a new season. Finally, we start Wednesday against Vancouver. We've got a couple things that Holland has done. I mean, we've talked, just in terms of prospects, we're talking about things that Holland is doing, things that Holland is different for. We talked about Dylan Holloway and Savoy, and these are players that in years past, both Oilers fans and Oilers head office would probably have in the lineup at some point during the season.
Holloway would definitely be getting the game.
Exactly. Yeah. And so these guys aren't going to now. Things are changing a little bit, and I think for those of us that are fans of seeing some playoffs for more than one season, we're pretty excited about that. Tell me, I mean, what, early days, right? Obviously, there's still some questions to be had. I'd say, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, but obviously, we've got, I think the top 9 at least, maybe, the 4 lines are pretty set. The questions that keep coming back are Archibald, right? Everybody pretty much thinks he'll be playing as as a kind of a favorite on the team, but maybe subbed in and out as the season goes on. Your thoughts on a guy that came back to camp today? He won't be playing first game, as according to Tippett, is Neil, right? Thoughts on where this team is headed early on. And maybe let's start with Holland's off-season moves. It was a long off-season, but go ahead, Spencer. Your thoughts first.
I thought he had a really good off-season for the amount of cap we had, and especially in a flat cap, getting Tyson Barrie for that fill-in that, well, not quite fill-in for what Oscar Klefbom will provide on the defensive end, but for a power play specialist, if you protect him, you can give him those good minutes in the offensive zone. He's going to make stuff happen. And then bringing in Turris for that deal, third line center, that's what everyone's been wanting for how long now? Right-handed. He won't be providing too much in the defensive zone from what I've seen of him, but I feel like just having that mentor beside Puljujarvi, somebody just hanging out with him, continuing to grow on that. They've looked awesome in the scrimmage. So, and then add an Archibald to that line as well. I'm really excited for this season coming up. The one area I am kind of scared of is goaltending. I think we could have went out and maybe got a little bit of an upgrade over Mike Smith, but I guess I'd rather have Mike Smith than the contract that Markstrom got, in all honesty. And we got some goalies in the pipeline that might be kind of, I don't really see them, but Konovalov is somebody really talked about over in Russia. But for the money we've had, we have a we got a good squad going in. Like Dominic Cahoon added to that top 6. He's looked absolutely awesome, and he gets to play with Draisaitl. They have connections from way back when. So I think for the money we have, Holland has done an awesome job.
And let's go on the goaltending first, Spencer. We'll stick with you first. I know, Sean, you got something you want to say, but we'll come back to you.
Well, I was going to go there, so I'll wait.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Let's get on the goaltending, Spencer. I mean, we've got Koskinen, we've got Smith. There's the potential, right, that Aaron Dell goes up on waivers. While he will go, he's got to go through clear waivers, right, to join the team. I don't know where the Oilers sit in terms of being able to claim him. He might not be available by that time. I think the sort of the money would be on Forsberg being the taxi squad goalie, right?
Yep.
Your thoughts? I mean, this is, every podcast in the league is talking about who their third goalie is this year. Do you think it makes a difference? Is it going to make a difference? And your thoughts on Forsberg could we have even done a little bit better there, knowing that we'd have a third taxi squad goalie in play?
I'm fine with Forsberg. He's gotten some backup minutes in the NHL in the past few years, from what I remember. And I'm okay with, if we need to, we have Skinner in the pipeline. He's contract year, I'm pretty sure, actually coming up soon. And he's been on and off in Bakersfield. You got to see what you have in some of your prospects, just in case if something does happen. But I feel like he did fine in the third goalie. If anything, just that one backup, I kind of wanted like Grice, but it was hard pickings from. And I'd much rather have a Barry and a Turris and a Cahoon than a good 1B goalie. I trust Koskinen. Surprisingly, I trust him.
Yeah, that's a controversial statement, right? In oil country, it shouldn't be, right? I mean, this guy gave us some good games last year, and there were many times Oilers fans are a fickle bunch. Many times where they were saying we got a steal on him. Who could believe Chiarelli got him for that deal? And then there were other times where people were saying it's the worst deal in the league. So go figure. I mean, I just think, given what you have to trust him. He wasn't going anywhere, right? And the only thing you could do was get a backup. And as you said, that I'm with you 100% that deal for Markstrom was a little bit too much term and a little bit too much money for my liking. Now, Sean, I know you're sitting there quietly, which you're not that. It's not the greatest thing for you to do. Tell me your thoughts on Holland's off season and then going into the season, and maybe we can talk about goaltending as well.
Well, I just want to say I don't know what Spencer's smoking, but I completely disagree.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you're not allowed to tell us what you're smoking because they probably don't advertise.
No, I do agree that, I mean, as far as the bargain deals, he did great there. I mean, Cahoon was especially, I think that was a great deal, and Tyson Barrie of course, as well. Those two guys were great additions. And Turris, I'm not a big Turris guy. I never really was. I'm not going to pretend to. But I mean, for the value and the money they paid for him, sure, that's a good fit.
Okay, before you move on, that Turris or Sheehan, though.
Yeah, Turris over Sheehan.
Yeah.
However, maybe we'll get to this. I think there's a big hole in the penalty kill that hasn't been addressed either. Mm-hmm. But for me, I think I can't give Holland a real high grade because I think he really missed out this offseason. I think he struck out in the goaltending. Everybody knew they were looking for a goalie. I mean, we were in on every goalie, it seemed like. And Mike Smith, I do not trust him whatsoever. I think he's finished. I think he's washed up, finished, and I don't think Anton Forsberg is good enough as a third goalie. And with all these games back to back here in a short period of time, I think it's going to hurt Edmonton. I think we're relying a lot on Koskinen. I'm not saying I don't love Koskinen. But I'm not saying I don't like him. Like, I think he's solid, but I don't think he can carry the torch especially all these back-to-back games for a long period of time. And then when you go to Mike Smith, I mean, he may get hot for a couple of games, but his lows are just so low. So I think, like, in the playoffs, it was clearly a problem, the goaltending and the defensive structure in general. We struggled defensively. I don't think we got better defensively, and I don't think we improved the goaltending at all. So it's kind of a hit and miss for your mixed bag. I think we're probably going to score more goals, but we're probably going to let in more goals. So that's kind of where I stand now. Now, in saying that doesn't mean that Holland can't make a trade here once we get going and then fix that, right? And like you said, maybe sign Aaron Dell and they just cut Mike Smith. Although I don't see that. They seem to be loyal to Smith for some reason. Maybe it's the hair. I don't know.
It makes no sense, but...
Or he throws a mean right hook. So I think this team is only going to go as far as the goaltending takes them. And right now, I think it's still a huge question mark.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you talk to anybody around the league, I mean, they figure this season is going to be about the goaltenders, right? Just given the workload they're going to be under, you have guys talking about, you score if you go into Vancouver on Wednesday night and you get the shutout. I mean, you got to play that guy the next game, right? The next night. Yeah, like you can't, you got to play the hot hand and sorry, they're coming to Edmonton. But, you got to go back to your goalies. And so you got goalies playing back to back, right? And then you've got a guy like, and Koskinen's 33 or 34 now, I think. But
is he that old?
Yeah, he's
32, 33.
32. You know what? He's 32. 32.
Yep,
Sorry,
32.
I'm aging him a little. But and Smith is Smith's 38.
Yep.
Going on 50.
Yeah, going on 50. And I mean, the way he plays. I mean, who knows? Maybe he could beat the crap out of a couple of other goalies, and we could have. Goaltending is going to be huge. I don't know that I'm kind of somewhere in the middle of you two right now in terms of maybe I'm not as down on Smith as you are, Sean. I think that Smith has moments of brilliance when he gets hot, right? Like he's awesome and you love to have him. But when he gets cold, right?
Yeah. Then
you might as well bring Forsberg in, and the challenge is it's never a gradual change for him. It's like it's either on or it's off for him, and so you can't tell whether you need to switch him off for the next game or whatever. But I'll keep my fan hat on and just hope that the two of them are able to shoulder the load. Okay, let's talk about defense. Maybe we'll start with Sean. I mean, you talking about this, and you're saying we're not getting any better defensively. Obviously, the word this year around the organization, both from Tippett and from Holland and from everybody around the organization, is this team needs to be better defensively. And your comments kind of indicate you don't feel like we've done that we've increased our defensive capabilities at all. Obviously, losing Clefbaum puts a little dent in that. You don't bring in Barry for defense, right? And to raise your defensive game. Clearly, you got to figure the power play is still going to be great. And then the penalty kill, as you said, I mean, Sheahan and Archibald they were just so much fun to watch last year on the PK.
Number one unit in the league.
Yeah. Like I went to a ton of games and I just, like I'm Archibald's biggest fan, right? Like, is the guy 10 feet tall? Because he, that's the way he plays, right? And so a lot of fun. What's your thought? I mean, is this, you figure this team needs a trade in order to get better defensively? You think the squad that they have, if they're, if Tippett comes in this year and he's got his second year under his belt, you think he can do better defensively with this squad, or is it, is all hope lost in terms of upgrading our defensive game?
Well, I wouldn't say all hope is lost. I mean, it is a shorter season, so you can kind of hope. You kind of hope that you can get by. Tippett makes some adjustments, defensive adjustments, and just like fundamentally, the system is a bit stronger, and the guys it's their second year in the system, so they kind of make better reads and they feed off each other more. You kind of hope there's a little bit of that, but that being said, like Nurse is playing higher up in the lineup than he did last year for the most part, so you got to kind of question that a bit. And then, like you said, Barry's replacing. You never mentioned Matt Benning. I've never been a huge Matt Benning guy, but Matt Benning on the third pair defensively was pretty strong in the third pair. I'll give him credit for that.
2 seasons ago, if you mentioned Benning's name on my show, I would have thrown you off. And then last season, I love the guy, right? Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I love the guy, but we're a third pairing guy. Right? Yeah, I was really surprised to see him go. So yeah, sorry, I'm glad you brought that up. But yeah, I'm surprised to see Benning go.
Yeah, so I mean, if you just do the math, like you lost Clefbaum and Benning, and you've added Tyson Barrie, and then I guess Caleb Jones is playing in the lineup more, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, he's kind of a pivotal guy. So as far as the defense goes, if he can kind of take the next step, Jones, then that's going to help a lot. And I've heard good review. And if Adam Larsson's back holds up, that's kind of the key to this defense, the Jones-Larsson pairing. I know Nurse is going to have his ups and downs and whatever, but Ethan Bear's shown that he can kind of carry that pair a bit, at least defensively. But Jones and Larsson are the key, in my opinion. Those two guys, if Larsson can stay healthy and Jones can improve his overall game, then they have a chance. Again, like 42 games or whatever the season is. But it's a lot of ifs, a lot of question marks. I worry that they're going to let in more goals than they did last year.
Well, and right now it looks like we're taking Jones from being for the most part, a third line pairing guy, right? And shoving him into a second line pairing, right? I mean, the early money would say he's going to be sitting with Larson more than likely, right? Yeah. As a second pair. Can he handle those kind of minutes, after playing really sort of limited time in the NHL? Obviously he's got a great pedigree with his brother and he's been on the show. He's a hell of a guy, a good guy. But I'd love to, the curiosity for me is really, does he and can he make that step in such a short period of time? I mean, it sure seemed like he had a high ceiling, right? Like at certain points of his career. I just, we haven't seen. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. It goes against most of what Holland sort of espouses a lot of times, right? Moving a guy before you really know that he's ready. But you don't really, despite all of the defensive prospects we have in this system, I still don't know that we know what we've got in Jones. Whether I'm right or wrong. Now, Spencer, your thoughts on the defense?
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I feel like we did get a little bit more offense with Barrie there, but missing Clefbaum, that's massive. That is a big detriment to us. He eats so many minutes, and he comes in, he plays first penalty kill, first power play. He does it all. And then, like Sean was saying, it's that Jones-Larsson pair is going to be relied on a ton. Like Larsson, he's got to have a good bounce back year. He's the veteran on that back end now, basically, other than Chris Russell. Mm-hmm. But I really feel like he needs to cement his game a little bit. He's been injured and stuff. That's understandable. But when him and Jones have played together in the past, they've provided some pretty solid numbers from what I remember. Even though it was a small sample size of, I'm pretty sure, under 10 games. But Nurse is also, he's going to have to take a massive step. He's going to have to show if he can be that true top pair shutdown guy. I feel like a lot relies on Nurse for sure. He's going to be that first penalty kill, that main guy for your shutdown, like Clefbaum was used in. And it's Nurse. He's been getting better every year, I'd say. Still some decision making needs to be done with him. And I'm not the most confident in the defensive part, but if we can implement a stronger structure, like last year, from what I remember, they were just allowing a lot of shots, and they were just compact, no pressure really in the defensive zone. Just watch that slot area, it's fine, it can work. But I like kind of like a high tempo while protecting that middle area, force some turnovers. Like, we have some of the best rush players in the NHL. We need to, in the defensive zone, create more turnovers, get more rush opportunities.
Not just some of the best rush players, but two of the best.
Two of the best.
Yeah.
Well, and sorry, I just wanted to add one point if I could there, Mike. That kind of speaks to, I think, just as a unit, the overall lack of poise and awareness that they have defensively. Exactly. And puck movers, really. Like Russell and Larson just don't move the puck really very well.
Glassing out.
Yeah, exactly. Glassing out, and Nurse has always been known for just glassing out or missing the passes, right? And Benning was never a great passer either. So, I mean, when Bear stepped in last year, everybody was blown away how, when he was under pressure, he was poised and he would make a short little pass and the puck would get out, right? We need more of that. So luckily, Bouchard is in the wings, and I think he's going to get some playing time here at some point if Larson's back does give out. Let's hope that's not the case. But you're talking about Caleb Jones too. I believe in Caleb Jones. I think he's going to take the next step. He was one of the question marks, but I think he is going to take the next step. I think he moves the puck well. He makes good decisions for the most part, and he has great awareness. So, that's kind of the key is that second pair, and then of course Nurse stepping up. But we'll see.
To that point, I mean, if you right now, if you look at how the defensive pairings go, you've got at least one guy that can move the puck on each pair, right? And that has been, and I used to always say that this is, sometimes it's not so much about how great you play defense. It's about how you get the puck out of the zone. Right. In fact, that's the most of it. And, I hate to bring the guy up, but that was the problem with Lucic, right? He'd been a fine player if you could get the puck to him or out of the zone and then get it into the offensive zone for him. But you just can't. The Oilers, had a couple of players that could take the puck out on their own, but there's not a lot of players in the NHL that can do that on their own, right? I mean, that take it end to end and take it out. You need that first pass, and so to have Jones, Barry, all there that can get the puck out of the zone. I think that's it's going to make a bit of a difference. We'll see what the new structure is and how, as you said, how Tippett does after another year with these guys, and they're used to his style, and we'll go from there. So let's, a couple things before we shut her down for the night. Let's talk about the forwards. Obviously, it's hard to go, a whole podcast episode without talking about McDavid and Draisaitl. We'll talk about them. Then maybe just we'll go into some early season predictions. In terms of the North Division and where you guys see, and thanks to Ruel, who SPR, and I know he put together some point predictions today that he sent over to me based on the Volman type of stats and some of those stats, and And so, I'm actually kind of curious. We'll kind of do an over and under on some of the major players on the lineup this year, and we'll see what maybe we go back to this. We'll do a mid-season in a month or so, and see where we're at. So let's chat. Let's move to the forwards. Okay, we obviously we've talked a little bit about this already, but some of the key additions: Cahoon, Turris. I think you could call Puljujarvi an addition, right? Obviously.
Yep. Coming back.
And so, what do you guys think? And jump ball, but thoughts on the forward core? Have we made it better? Has Holland made it better? Is it about the same? Are we going to look at another power play that is record breaking again this year? Those kind of things. What's your thoughts?
I think for depth scoring, we definitely got better. Even getting Puljujarvi back on that third line, massive help. Hopefully he can take that step into being a better NHL player, better on small ice, basically. But like Sean was saying earlier, it's that penalty kill. We didn't really add that one shutdown guy with Archibald now. But I believe that I think they really like Kara as a fourth line center and on that penalty kill. He's pretty solid. I got to give him that for the penalty kill. I'm not the biggest fan of him playing center, but in the playoffs when they were facing Chicago, they had that Kara Neal chase online that was dominating like Corsi, their Fenwick. They were put together some really strong minutes. So if Kara can take, and I've been waiting for him to take a step, if he can take a little step to just being better defensively, that could help out the penalty kill hole massively. But up front, I really like the addition of Cahoon, whether it's with McDavid or Draisaitl. He's just really smart, tenacious player. He's like he reminds me of a Tyler Ennis, like a better Tyler Ennis. And then I kind of, with the forward group, I kind of want to see that Nuge, Draisaitl, Yamamoto line get going. But they like Nuge with McDavid, allows him to have that defensive guy, allows him to, cheat a little bit for offense, let him create. I'm really hoping to see more out of Cassian on this forward group. He's got that ticket he signed, and I'm really hoping he can provide more each and every game. The inconsistencies from him just being invisible one game to having 5 hits the next game. He's got to take that out, provide a little bit more offense as well, be a good retriever for McDavid and Nuge, and let them do the work. Go muck it up. But I'm excited for this forward group. I feel like the defensively, the forward group may struggle a bit. I can see that happening, but it's going to be fun to watch them in the offensive zone. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Spencer, let's, I got to ask, I mean, we kind of have a bit of an idea, obviously, of who the top 9 are. Mm-hmm. Obviously, fourth line's going to cycle a bit. I mean, we talked about Nygaard earlier. Like, who's on that taxi squad, do you think? Like, and if you were to sort of pick a dark horse for this lineup in terms of forwards this year, is there anybody you think is ready to make that move and maybe make more of a contribution this year?
My dark horse, I've liked him since we drafted him, and he's a responsible player. Ryan McLeod. I think if something happens, any injuries or whatnot, maybe Kara's not performing, and McLeod's been showing well in practices on that taxi squad. I could see him definitely stepping into a role, playing defensively, sheltered minutes. If we're looking for like a breakout player with more offense, it would have to be the Tyler Benson. But he has shown that he can't. He struggles sometimes at the NHL speed, like we've talked about. But Ryan McLeod, there's no problems with his speed. He's got NHL speed, NHL size. He can think the game really well. He's defensively, he's sound. I really like him. I think he can, maybe even next year he steps in as a fourth line, third line center. But if there's some injuries or Hopefully there's no COVID cases, but if anything COVID-wise shows up, I think he could take a step and provide you some solid minutes for sure.
Yeah. Now, Sean, you've had the pleasure of sitting in the wings and listening to the commentary and getting your thoughts put together.
Yeah.
Now, your thoughts on the forward going into the season?
They're deeper for sure. I've always been a big fan of pairs, and I think for the first time in a long time that the top six, they finally are kind of set on the pairs, Yamo and Draisaitl playing together, and Nuge and McDavid. So I think that's huge. And then I guess Puljujarvi and Turris for now on the third line. So there's definitely more scoring depth up front. I really do worry about, and I know I was having a discussion with some people online about this before. Some people feel that with Sheahan gone, it's not a big loss at all defensively, and that somebody else like Turris, for example, can just fill in the penalty kill and they can just plug him in and he'll be fine. I'm not 100% convinced on that. It's not just the system. I really think it is the personnel. I think Sheahan was a fantastic penalty killer in Detroit, and he was in Edmonton as well. So with him gone, that is a hole that I'm not sure that that Turris or Gaetan Haas or Jujhar Khaira, for that matter, can kind of fill. Khaira did it well in the second unit, but so I'm a little concerned there. Again, it kind of leads back to, they might give up some more defensively, but they may score more, and maybe that's the goal, just to outscore everybody, like Toronto did there a couple years ago. The most goals in the league, or they're right up there, and they gave up the most too. So offensively, the forwards look good. And as far as a sleeper you mentioned there, I guess the one guy that I'm kind of intrigued by, and I think there's more to give, and I'm kind of glad that they re-signed him, is Nygaard, Joakim Nygaard, or Joakim Nygaard, however they pronounce it. I mean, he's got the speed, and he was over in the SHL for Farjestad for a bit, and I think he scored 7 goals in 12 games or something. He's got a lot of skill, and he's got a lot of speed to the lineup. He's probably going to have to rotate in and out initially on that fourth line, but I think he has more to give, and I'd like to see him get a bit more opportunity. And then with Khaira, I mean, I'm not a big Khaira fan at all. I agree he was good on the penalty kill, but that's about it. He was a disaster everywhere else. I'd like to see Gaetan Haas kind of take over that role on the fourth line. So those would be my 2 guys.
Also, can't forget about Devin Shore if we sign him. That's somebody I didn't really think of then. He's got a chance. Somebody that can provide some decent minutes.
Yeah. I mean, this is it's going to be interesting, right, going into this season. But I'm with you. I love I love that they've got those couple pairings. There's a lot of, again, controversy in Oil Town around whether you keep the Nuge, Draisaitl, Yamamoto line together. And Oilers fans aren't stubborn at all, so they wouldn't want to. They want to go back to what worked. I get that. I mean, that line's gold, right? Like they just clicked and best line in the league for the time they were together. But you've gotta, if you can find that one guy that works with McDavid and has and can up the point percentage between both lines. And Cahoon, right? He's got the history with Draisaitl, so I don't. We might be talking midway through the season about you might change who your pairing is, SPR, to Cahoon and Draisaitl, right? I mean that's honest, right? Like you don't know how those guys. Yamamoto is, he's fun. He's fun to watch. He's kind of like. He's like an Archibald as well, right? He plays about 10 times his size and gets thrown around. It's a little bit like watching Pinball Clements if you're a CFL player, CFL fan at any time. He just gets tossed around a little bit, but still kind of fun. And I like the kid. I like his attitude, and I love a lot of things about him. But
he's attached to Draisaitl's hip, though.
He is.
Yeah, I can't see him going anywhere, but you're right. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. And just because you talk about Cahoon and Draisaitl doesn't mean that Yamamoto won't be part of that conversation, right? Like if that does change to be the pairing that is kind of the stronger way. I'm with you 100% on Kara. I was a huge fan of his, and thought so much of him, but last year I was just really disappointed.
Yeah.
Last year was not good.
Yeah, it was like his Tobias Reeder type year, right? Where he just was like, you go in with all these expectations, and then nothing happens that was really exciting. I think you can, just given the fact that Shane's gone, right? Somebody's got to step up. You just got to hope somebody steps up on the PK, and we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Kara in really reduced minutes if he doesn't show really well early on.
Face-offs are also a problem with Sheahan gone.
Yeah.
Still,
yeah.
So.
I mean,
it's a minor detail, but
yeah, it's going to be interesting, right, to see where that goes. But the most exciting thing for me, like, I loved that power play last year, and who didn't, right? And I'm excited to see. I actually thought, and probably a lot of people will groan when they hear it. I thought Clefbaum held them back a little bit, right? Like, not because he wasn't capable. He was injured, right? Like he wasn't playing the Clefbaum that we knew, right? Like in previous years, I thought. Like I didn't think he was. I think if you had taken him from a year earlier and put him on there, the power play might have even been better, right? Like I just thought that he had more to give, and that's not to say he was bad by any stretch. But I think you add in Tyson Barrie to that, and it could be lethal, or who knows? Maybe Clefbaum had more to do with near 30% success than.
What I found Clefbaum was really good at is he defers to the stars. He knows where the puck should go. The only thing that I feel like Tyson Barrie will do better of is he's definitely more of a volume shooter than what Clefbaum will. So we're going to get more shots from the point, but it's also getting the shots through. Clefbaum was hitting a lot of shin pads, I found.
Yeah.
But Tyson Barrie, it's like Clefbaum was really good at just deferring to his all-stars. Let Draisaitl and McDavid handle the puck. But with Tyson Barrie, we definitely will get more shots through. That's what
Well, and the one thing I kind of wonder is who's going to be that guy in front of the net? Is it going to be Chase On? Is it going to be Chase On? Is it going to be Neil? Or are they going to try somebody like Yamamoto or Puljujärvi, right?
Yep.
That's kind of a big question mark, too.
Yeah. And we'll probably the first. I'm excited to see the first 4 or 5 games how things change because, right, without having any preseason, that things are going to change in a hurry. I've been so far pretty happy with the way Tippett has not been stubborn, and he seems willing to make a few changes as needed. But we'll see what goes on. All right. Let's move towards wrapping this up, and we're going to talk about some point expectations, and then where you guys see the Oilers finishing in the North Division, up or down from last year, playoff team, etc. We're going off of and thanks again to Ruel, as SPR knows, he doesn't Spencer, I don't know if you've ever interacted with Ruel, but he doesn't like to post a lot of things like for everybody to see, but behind the scenes he'll send you his thoughts, and sometimes I agree with them, sometimes I don't. He's very stats based, and you know what? I love it because I love interacting with other fans, and so thanks to him for putting this together. A little bit of when I say his points, they're as I said, he goes using Volman's statistical analysis, for second, third year players, that sort of thing. Yeah. He's kind of taken some look in terms of whether they're being used on the power play. Anybody that was on the second power play unit, he didn't really give them a a bump because the second power play unit was used about 13% of the time for the Oilers last year. And so that's kind of where he's come up with the numbers. I'm not going to go through them all, but we'll start with, and he also used the predictors against leagues as they move from SHL to NHL. Those type of forecasts. Puljujarvi, expected points for the season 19 on this model. Spencer, over or under?
I'm gonna go over. I
Over?
believe in him. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe not by much. I can see definitely maybe. I don't see it's out of the question of a 10 goal, 15 assists ceiling kind of thing. Maybe 10 and 10. I could definitely see him get, especially if with the way the offense is looking. I could see, and if we're gonna have to rely on the running gun, I could see it happening.
Yeah. Okay. And SPR 19.
Is it a 56 game schedule?
Yeah,
That is what it is. Yeah.
I think I mentioned 42 there before. I was thinking something. Okay, so 56 games, 19 points. Yeah, I'll take the over.
Okay. And, if he ends up doing some power play time, it could be quite a ways over, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Depending on
If he
where
gets
he
to front.
goes. Let's go with, here's an interesting one. Cassian. He's got 26 points on Cassian. We'll start with you this time, Sean. Over or under? By the way, I'm going to take the over on Puljujarvi.
Okay.
Yeah, probably more like the 25-point area in my mind.
Well, yeah. 26 points for Cassian. Hang on a second. Let me type in Cassian. I want to see what he's got there before, because it hasn't been that close to it. So he played 59 games. He had 34 last year, and he played 79 before that, and he had 26. I'm going to take the under. I don't think he's going to stick on the top line. I'm kind of I'm a little bit down on him. I mean, he should rebound. You would think he's going to rebound, but I'm not 100% convinced. So I'm going to go under.
Yeah, Sean took the words right out of my mouth. I agree. I don't think he sticks too long. He's going to be the first guy to be taken off that line. And even last year, he went from first line, 16 minutes a night, to fourth line, 9 minutes a night.
Well, and ideally, in a perfect world, yes, Puljujarvi takes that top line spot, and then,
that would be nice.
That would be awesome, right? That's what everybody's kind of hoping for. So yeah.
So I'm because I can't agree with you guys all the time. Otherwise, it makes for a bad episode. I'll take the over, not by much, because I'm more siding on the under. But I think one of the things that drives Cassian is as you find, as soon as he gets like a little burr underneath him from the lineup, it pushes him a little bit more. Maybe having Puljujarvi there to kind of give him that little bit of a push, we might see more out of him this year. I'm hopeful. Interesting one here, Yamamoto. I mean, this is kind of. I mean, you could be on Oilers Twitter, and every Flames fan will tell you Yamo's good for 5 points this year, and every Oilers fan will tell you he's good for 100. I'll do this one first. We've got 36, so we've each had a chance to go first. On the over-under on 36 points, they've got 14 and 22. You know what? I'm going to go even on that one. I think he's about exactly a 36-point player this season. I'm a little bit, I don't believe in the freshman slump, but I do think that I think 36 points is a hell of a good season on a 56 game schedule. If anything, though, I would go over. I definitely wouldn't go under, but that's my thought on it. And he's going to be a hell of a player with Draisaitl. Yeah, Spencer.
I think I'll take the over on that. If he can stay healthy, he plays a really wrecking ball style. He'll go into the corners head first. He doesn't care. he's really good at, like, even last year, just finishing around the net. He's got a really good finishing ability, and I can see him, like, just potting some goals. Like, he's going to be playing with Draisaitl for most of the year. It's hard to take the under on that one.
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things I didn't say is, like, the young guys have a bit of an advantage this season, right? With all those games, and getting beat up like that. I mean, he's still a young guy. Hell of a streaky player, his whole, like, junior everything, right? Like, I remember the streak he went on in Spokane when he got put back down there was phenomenal, right? And then again last year when he came up and played. So let's just hope he stays on the streak. Your thoughts over and under 36 points SPR?
Yeah, I'll take the over as well. He was a point per game player last year, and he's going to be stapled to Draisaitl's hip. So yeah, give me the over.
Okay, awesome. All right, now let's do the big two. We've got they're both sitting around the same on Ruel's model. We've got Connor McDavid with 82 points and Leon Draisaitl for 78. And in the let's start with Draisaitl. We'll leave number one till last. So 78 points for Draisaitl. Spencer, your turn to go first on this one. That's 32 goals.
56.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go over.
Oh yeah, all right.
I'll just go over, have some fun with it. You never know. Maybe the Oilers' offense does take a really massive step with Barrie, more puck movers, and he just excels. I mean, he had 110, so it's not out of the question.
Yeah, we could see offense go up this year, right? With the goaltenders playing back-to-backs like that. Yeah. Sean?
Well, the players will be playing back-to-back too, right? The forwards.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I'm going to say, I'm going to take the under on that just because he was just over 1.5 points a game last year. And I think he'll be at just a little bit under that. So 1.5 and 56, 28 is what, 70, 84? Yeah, I think he'll be just under that. He'll probably be sitting around 70, 72, somewhere along there.
All right. Okay, and last one. Actually, we'll finish it off with Connor at 82 points. Sean, over under.
What is it, 82?
82, yeah. 29 goals, 53 assists.
82. I'm going to say even. I'm going to say they nailed it. He's going to get 82 points exactly.
All right. And it's so hard to tell, right? All right. I guess I'm up. I'm going to go with the over. I'm going to say he's going to push 100 this season.
Whoa.
And and I know that's
2 points a game.
2 points a game.
Almost.
I am not going to be surprised if he is the only player to break 100 this year.
Wow.
Yeah. Just even see, like, the way he, like, if you watch some of the camp video, and you're never surprised, right? As guys come into camp and they interview and they talk about Connor's speed, and it seems every year everybody says he's got faster. He looked faster. I don't know if that's possible, but that we keep saying he's faster and faster, and they're talking about his ability to score. That he's, he seems to, be an even better shot this year. I just feel like if he stays healthy, that's going to be the big plus on everybody's mind. But I think he's going to do over 100, and I also think he's going to benefit from, because he's a bit of a private guy. He's going to benefit from not having all the fans there.
Well, before Spencer goes, I just want to mention something. Just keep in mind with these guys, they're obviously very proud guys, right? Mm-hmm. And I saw an interview with Connor that he said they asked him what he needs to work on, and he says he needs to work on his defensive game. And Draisaitl was criticized a lot last year for his defensive style, his defensive game as well.
Which I think was bullshit, by the way. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think those two guys, I think there is going to be a renewed focus on that, at least for a while. And I think the team, in order for the team to have success, those two guys are going to have to lead by example, and they're going to have to play a better 200-foot game, which may affect their offensive numbers a little bit, which is why I took Draisaitl under. But let's hear what Spencer has to say.
No, that makes a lot. Like, I completely agree. I think the best Oilers team would be if both of those guys are actually like don't even have like near like if they have like 75 points, but they play a full complete game. The Oilers are probably better than if they both have 90 points.
Yeah.
So
and they lead the league in goals against. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that'd be nice. But I would say, let's just go over because it's fun. It's McDavid. I don't ever want to doubt him. I'm too big of a fan.
All right.
Fanboys.
Yeah, exactly.
I did the unthinkable today in my fantasy draft, and I fielded a team. Of course, Draisaitl and McDavid weren't available, but I fielded a whole fantasy team without a single Oiler player. So
Nice.
that's about as crazy as it gets. Okay, so you're taking the over. All right, guys. Let's finish it off by some early season predictions. This is normally most years this is tough. This is even tougher this year because you know there's not as much video available. It just seems there's not as much information available. You're kind of left to whoever's at the rink sort of thing. We have got we've got an all Canadian division, so we're also playing teams that we're not used to playing. What for the North Division? We've got 7 teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. What's your thoughts? Maybe start with you, Spencer. Where do the Oilers finish? Are they a playoff team?
Ooh, it's
And
gonna be tough.
if you don't have them at top of the division, who else do you have at who's top of the North Division?
Or who's your 4, right? You got to pick 4 playoff teams?
Yeah, pick your 4.
I'd go my first team. I think it's the Maple Leafs. I think their offense is just loaded. I really like the TJ Brody sign-in. If Freddie Anderson can actually bounce back from last year, he's pretty bad last year, but when he's good, a team can be pretty good, and they just got breakout offensive players that can just change
Your run
the
on
game.
the podcast, by the way, is unbelievably short, by the way.
Well, that's all the time we have.
I know.
Have a great night.
I know.
No.
Sucks.
That's all right.
Praising the Leafs, never thought.
Yeah. All right,
But
you got the Leafs.
I go,
your top team.
yeah, and then I would say number 2 for me is Montreal.
Yeah.
I like them. That Danault Tatar Gallagher line is real deal. They dominated all their numbers last year, and goaltending's a little question. But Carey Price, he bounced back last year, and they got Jake Allen now backing up. My number 3 is now the Oilers. I do believe that this is more optimistic. Like the defense is very scary and the goaltending. But if everyone buys into the system, I believe we can finish 3rd. And my 4th team. I'm gonna go Winnipeg. Or that's tough. I'll go Vancouver, actually. We'll go Vancouver at number 4. I like their top 6. And Nate Schmidt on the back end, I like that pickup. Their goaltending is a question mark as well. Can Demko be the Demko against Dallas? And I'm not a big fan of Calgary, honestly. That's not just me being an Oilers fan. Not that big. I'm not a big Markstrom guy. I think he's only had 1 season above a .920 save percentage.
Yeah, that's correct.
And Tanev has never. He's a hard-nosed defender, but I feel like that's a downgrade on Brody for sure. Their top 6 is fine. If Gaudreau can obviously be the 90-point Gaudreau, but I'm not in love with their forward group either. That's the thing. So my 1 would be Toronto, 2 Montreal, 3 Edmonton, 4 Vancouver.
All right. Okay. And so obviously Ottawa and the Jets don't get a mention. Yeah, the Jets are
weird.
Yeah,
their defense is very, very bare bones, but they got Hellebuck. He's Vezina goalie. He can save them.
Yeah, he's the one thing that could possibly save them. Yeah. Okay, Sean, your thoughts.
TJ Brody. That reminds me of the podcast we used to do. We had a bright phone calls. The voice of TJ Brody. Okay, so the Leafs are too talented not to be in the top 4. Let's just get through that. I also really like Montreal. I think they showed a lot last year, and I'm a big fan of Nick Suzuki, and I think Kotkaniemi is going to take a big step forward as well. I like how they added Josh Anderson and Toffoli. I think they've got a nice mix. Joel Edmondson on the blue line too, and then Jake Allen, pretty good. Yeah. Armia, and they got Jake Allen behind Price, just in case anything happens there. I think they're a strong team. Like I said, they're a good mix. So as long as Weber and Petrie and those guys stay healthy, I think they're going to be a playoff team. And then I'm going to pick the Oilers in the top 4 as well. I don't know the exact order, but Edmonton, Montreal, and Toronto are the best 3 teams in my opinion. Edmonton they have the 2 best players in the league, and they'll kind of score their way there. They'll probably give up more goals than, well, at least Montreal. And then the 4th spot, I think it'll be a toss-up. It'll be pretty close. But I think I'll go with the Vezina goalie. I think Connor Hellebuck in that, and I think he's going to be. I mean, he'll keep them in most games, and I think defensively they struggled a bit last year. They're missing some guys, but I think they've kind of strengthened that a bit. And I saw a tweet there somebody put out earlier, probably a couple weeks ago, and they just showed the records of all the Canadian teams versus all the other Canadian teams last year. And Montreal had the best record against all the other Canadian teams, and Vancouver had the worst. So I'm thinking, and I think Calgary was kind of down there too. So I'm thinking, I mean, Calgary and Winnipeg and Vancouver, they'll all battle it out, but I'm going to go with the best goalie out of the 3, and that's going to be Winnipeg. So that'll be my top 4.
All right. Okay. Well, I'll finish it off. I hate to say it, but I can't kick myself off this show. So I'll say Toronto does look pretty good, and goaltending will be a big question mark for them. Also, there's always that age-old question is when the guy, goes to sleep in Maple Leafs pajamas and he comes back to Toronto, is he going to be as good as he was? And so, where Thornton ends up and how he plays. I mean, he's not a spring chicken anymore. He's now in his 40s and a lot of people have him tagged for that top line, right?
He's getting good opportunity.
Yeah, I'm curious.
It's going to be funny.
You know what? I'm a Thornton fan. At least I was
awesome.
until he put on a Maple Leaf jersey. I'm really kind of curious. And so there's still some questions. I've never been a Nylander fan, so we'll see what happens there, right? But obviously Matthews, Marner, Tavares. I'm a huge Tavares fan, even though I like to make fun of him now. And goaltending obviously is a big question mark. They should be number 1 or 1-2. Depending on I think my biggest question mark in the North Division this year is Edmonton, right? Is where they finish in that top 4. I believe wholly that they will be the Oilers will be a playoff team. Whether they could be they had the best winning percentage of all the Canadian teams last year. Maybe not against other Canadian teams, but they had the best winning percentage among the Canadian teams. I think that, I think if they build off of that from the real season that was last year, rather than that, come back from a long break and enter into a quick best of 5, right? Like, I think they can be forgiven for not making it past that first round. It was disappointing, but I think you can forgive a team for having a long break and then getting beat by, a streaky team, right? So they could. I'd take if I'm not betting with my heart, I'd take Toronto at number 1. I'd go probably with. I actually probably go with Edmonton at number 2. I think that they'll get it done, and we'll know early on how the goaltending situation is. But I think, just some of the things that, we've heard and seen, and I think some of the additions will make a big difference there. I've got Montreal definitely on number 3. I might go. I'd probably go, and I hate to say this even more, I'd probably go with Calgary at number 4. But
because you live there.
Yeah, because I lived there. yeah, I don't anymore, by the way. Now I'm on the other side of the world. But yeah, I'd probably go with Calgary at number 4. They still got some really good players there. I'm really curious how Giordano plays this year. I think Tanev was. I think that's a mistake, right? Like that whole. Defensively, I think they got worse. And I'm not a Tanev fan at all. I think he was, hopped up a little bit on, who his playing partners were. It's like a half good guitarist playing with a really good guitar player, and then, when you separate them, you realize, wait, maybe you're not as great, all alone as we thought you were. So I'm just not a big Tanev fan. And Markstrom, though, is going to be a good goalie. The one thing that, the talk on Markstrom is the guy in Vancouver, the goaltending coach, is unbelievable, right? And really tough on the goalies out there. Now, you talk to goalies and they say the goaltending coach doesn't have much to do with it. And then you talk to GMs and they'll tell you the goaltending coach has a lot to do with it. It's probably the truth is always somewhere in the middle. So we'll see how that works out. But if I had to guess, I'm going to guess Calgary at number 4. But it's going to be that 4th spot is a toss up, right? It really depends on who's got the best goaltender. And then again, to SPR, you were talking about Gaudreau. I mean, I think in my mind, Gaudreau is, for a fan base, Gaudreau is the most overrated player in the league, right? Like the guy.
Well, they're borderline blowing that whole thing up, right? Because him and Monahan have not done anything in the playoffs. So I think they're a real fragile team, fragile family. And if they struggle out of the gate, I could see that going south quickly.
Yeah. That's just it, right? What I'm curious about is when you're playing a series, because you're playing basically 2-game series against every team, right? And if you've got, because once the going gets rough, Gaudreau's out the door, right? Anytime there's a little bit of hitting, if it gets really sort of brutal in those back-to-back games, Gaudreau might just be he might end up being a 4th-line player, or riding the pine, right?
Yeah.
And Monahan, I wouldn't say I was a fan, but I thought he was really I thought he was going to be, one of the best goal scorers in the league at one point. And I don't know what happened to him. He's got, his numbers are good, right? If you average them out over time, but last season he just seemed a little bit gone. And I'm not a big fan of Rasmus Andersson, and maybe that's my heart speaking, but I think that's an okay personally. At 4.5. I don't think he's a top line defenseman, but that's kind of where they got him slotted right now with the loss of Brody and their defense. They've gone downhill in my mind, huge. Their top 3 are Giordano, Anderson, and Hanifin, right? And Giordano, I think any other year would be fine, but he's getting a little bit older, right? So,
Yep.
Anyway, that's my thoughts, guys. Let's wrap this up. We'll start with Spencer. Any last thoughts before we go into the new season?
No, nothing I can think of. Just hopeful that the Oilers can make another playoff appearance.
All right, you and me both. SPR, last thoughts?
Just cheap plug. Check us out at theallnight.ca, and you can go on YouTube. Check us out at youtube.com/theallnight. We're just going to keep pumping out that prospect content. Everybody seems to love it, so as long as we get positive encouragement, and we're going to keep doing it. So,
when's your next pod scheduled?
My next podcast?
Yeah. Are you doing a podcast too, right? On the Oil?
Oh, no. Well, it's kind of been hit and miss. I'm not much for editing. I prefer to be a guest. That way I don't have to edit the material.
You're a shitty guest. I want to get somebody who can edit as well. That's what I need more of. All right. Guys, thanks so much. My last thoughts, just thanks so much for joining me. I'm just excited to be settled and podcasting again and get some good hockey talk going. We're gonna be on all the time. Now between now and the end of the season. I've got Reed Wilkins coming next week, next Tuesday, which is nice. I've got some other guests planned. I think it's been a good year in terms of building the brand of Oilers Live. I've got, of course, the 99 Forever podcast hosted by Eric Friesen that is on the channel, and so looking forward to a really good season. Definitely get both of you back on. Less Toronto Maple Leafs talk, though, more Oilers talk next time.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'll get that out.
Get that out. I really appreciated having you on tonight, though. Have a great night, guys.